Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us across the fence. I'm Fran Stoddard. Over the past 2 years, social scientists have documented the challenges brought on by the COVID-19 pandemic. In all areas of the country, research findings show substantial increases in mental and physical health issues, food insecurity, and unemployment. One of the groups doing this work is the National Food Access and COVID Research Team. The team collaborated with student researchers, including a student at the University of Vermont, whose senior thesis focuses on food insecurity and social cohesion. Across the Fence spoke with the UVM researcher about her work.
My name is Emma Frank, and I go to the University of Vermont College of Agriculture and Life Sciences, and I did my research on social cohesion and food insecurity in New Mexico and Vermont during the first year of the COVID-19 pandemic.
So I worked with the National Food Access and COVID Research Team, or the NFAC team. They're based in Vermont, but
Social cohesion is pretty much helping people out of the goodness of your heart. So that might be giving food to your neighbors, or giving a ride to an elderly person, or sharing a meal with family just because you want to.
And what did you find out then in this research project?
There was a lot of social cohesion in both of these states. There was a lot of comments about wanting to come together. Food insecurity did rise in Vermont, but it stayed the same in New Mexico. This indicates that maybe there might be some things that we need to do better in Vermont and look for New Mexico, what they did during the pandemic. But I think overall both states are going to bounce back pretty well.
And you said that that's because you found in your research some existing social cohesion. What does that look like to people when you're saying that? What does that mean about Vermonters and the folks from New Mexico?
That means, for example, in Vermont, there was a lot of comments about sharing home produce from backyard gardens with their neighbors. So that was something that was really awesome, because sharing food with your neighbors from backyard gardens can maybe help mitigate the effects of food insecurity. But in New Mexico, there was comments about being too far from the grocery store from their home, and obviously the distance didn't change, so maybe food insecurity can be mitigated in New Mexico by opening up more grocery stores.
And you were drawn to this research, why?
Researching COVID-19 is a pretty once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, hopefully. So I really wanted to jump on that, because doing research now on COVID-19 can maybe help prevent pandemics in the future from happening again, and we don't want history to repeat itself. So it's important to do as much research as we can while it's going on so that it doesn't happen again.
Where does this research go from here?
More research and looking at how social cohesion has changed from during the pandemic to after the pandemic, and including more states and making it more worldwide, and just getting really as much data as we possibly can. This research actually was in coordination with the National Food Access and COVID Research Team, or the NFAC team. So I worked really closely with them. They basically headed the whole study, and I just kind of jumped on. My research advisor was Dr. Farrell Burtman, and Dr. Meredith Niles is the PI. So Cal's was instrumental. I met my thesis advisor. She was just my normal advisor, and then she actually became, she went to a more master's program, but we already had established a really good connection, and so she just kind of brought me on to her research. So if it hadn't been for her being my Cal's academic advisor, I wouldn't even have known about this opportunity.
Our thanks to Emma for sharing her research with us, and best of luck to her and her classmates in the class of 2022. Research is one of the hands-on learning experiences offered to UVM students. Other opportunities involve internships. In fact, 9 out of 10 senior students report involvement in research or internships while studying at UVM. A few years ago, our Rebecca Gollin discovered 2 students in one of the most unique internships you could ever imagine. From our archive, here's the story.
I like to hear those little ducks quacking.
It's a typical day on the farm. That is, it's a typical day here at Brook Farm in Ferrisburg.
I came here with the intention of reactivating the farm in 2006, and I tried a number of different things. Some worked better than others, but my passion has always been cereals. And
Eric Andrus owns the farm. The land is flat with heavy clay soil and poor drainage. Growing grains here was not working.
We had wheat crops suffer from excessive rain and poor drainage several times. Almost 20 years ago, I lived in Japan, in a northern area of Japan, and saw rice being grown in a temperate climate. So I knew that it could be done because hundreds of thousands of people do it over there very successfully, even though it's as cold as New England.
Andrus decided to give rice a try. But as every farmer knows, growing any type of crop means fighting the insects and weeds that come along. Andrus went with a traditional solution.
We're dealing with aquatic weeds growing in amongst our crop. And there are several ways of dealing with these. One is systemic herbicides, which are unacceptable to us for ecological reasons. And another one is to go in there and physically remove the weeds by hand, which is also unacceptable to us. So that really leaves this multi-species method of raising rice and ducks together.
Integrating ducklings into his rice paddies keeps the weeds and insects at a minimum, with the plants growing in neat lines. These ducks aren't the only ones helping Andrus on the farm.
The relationship between us and the ducks is really critical to the success of the farm because they live for a few weeks off the paddy until they get bigger and we're able to form that relationship with them. So from the first day we got them, we would sing every time we feed them. That way they know our voices, they associate the singing with being fed.
Elise Schumacher and Isabella Madoff are students at the University of Vermont. They're spending the summer as interns here at Brook.
I've always been very interested in farming, but more non-traditional farming. I worked on a hydroponic operation in high school because I'm so interested in the environmental effects of farming and how we can be more resilient in the ways that we produce food for a growing population. So learning about a farm that was growing rice in Vermont, something that's really a staple in so many people's diets, and in an area that's like naturally a wetland, it just makes sense.
It's part of a new internship program at UVM that aims to better prepare students to enter the workforce.
The Next Generation Food Systems Internship Program is really the flagship internship program for the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences. It provides opportunities for students to get hands-on experience in a food system business and thus prepares them to be part of the next generation food system workers.
Matt Myers is the coordinator for the program. It's supported by an anonymous donor who wanted to give students more opportunities to get hands-on experience.
We have a philanthropist who is supporting the internships for 12 students this summer who each work in a different food systems related business, and it may be a value-added making cheese from milk, it may be doing outreach and marketing, but either way they're preparing for roles in the next generation of food systems workers, and in the meantime they're learning about their career interests and learning about who they are and what they want to do in the world as food systems employees in the future.
Meyer says that there has been growth in jobs in Vermont in the food systems sector, as well as strong interest among college students.
I've always had summer jobs in like hospitality, working in restaurants, and like I knew that I could go home this summer and make a lot more money, but kind of just be doing the same thing. And though I do like doing that work, it's not super fulfilling. And so then when I had the opportunity to be here and be at Brook, I kind of took it just to like learn something different. And I also didn't want to work on like a regular farm, even though I love regular farms also. I wanted to be learning something that other people weren't really doing, just like something that, I don't know, I felt like I was a part of something kind of special. But on top of that, I have just been learning a lot of practical skills, like basic carpentry, which I knew a little bit, but you know, you don't really learn that when you work in a restaurant or things like that. Yeah, basic like electrical wiring we were working on yesterday.
It's been amazing. It's definitely the funnest job I've had. It's different every day. We change, like there's definitely like rhythms for different times of the summer, different days of the week. We were like doing some carpentry work, building duck houses. The first few weeks we were down on the patty, planting all the plants with the machines. So I've really learned a lot more than I thought I would.
For Andres, having students on the farm helps him be successful. It's also an opportunity to share what he's learned.
Bella is environmental studies major, and Elise is food systems major. And this is like the applied section of the curriculum. So you can study how ecological agriculture works in theory. You can study how food systems entrepreneurship works in theory, but this is applied. This is the real world out here. And we have to use the limited number of hours in the day and the limited number of dollars in the budget to make these goals achievable in real time, you know, in the limited amount of space between the beginning of the season when they come on board in early June. By the end of August, we want to see results.
For these students, as well as the rest of the next generation food systems interns around the state, it's a chance to take their learning from the classroom to the field.
I learned so much about, like, you know, environmental economics and food systems and policy and all these things in school, in class, and then coming here and kind of just being taken in as like a part of the farm, kind of a part of like Eric's family, basically, and talking to him just in conversation and seeing him physically like have to fill out reports or like trying to get his USDA approval, like all of these things, like it's just really seeing it put to action and being a part of that. You really see just what's happening and why things are the way they are.
Putting learning into action on the farm and making new friends along the way. In Ferrisburg, I'm Rebecca Golland with Across the Fence.
And that's our program for today. Once again, thank you for joining us Across the Fence. I'm Fran Stoddard. Stay well.